My name is Sophia. I go to Smith. I'm a senior, and I'm taking Sinhala. And I started taking it at the beginning of this year, so now it's second semester, and I'm in Sinhala too. But the main reason why I'm taking the language is because I applied for a Fulbright fellowship to go to Sri Lanka for next year. So it's recommended that you learn the language, like obviously.
How are you anticipating, should you get the Fulbright, that experience will be different from Spain?
Okay, I think it's going to be different because when I was in Spain, I was with a program, so I was with like 30 other American students. I lived in a homestay, and so like everything, like the logistics of my life were all taken care of, and then my only real responsibility was like going to class and like I did some volunteer work, but like this will be very different because it'll be just me and 4 other people in the whole country. I'm not even sure like if there'll be more than one of us in in a city. I think we're mostly going to be, if you get assigned to be there, you'll be in Colombo or in Kandy, but I don't even know if I'll know anyone else, you know. So that'll be interesting. I'm also going to be like being a teaching assistant full time, so I'm going to have like a real job that I'm like responsible to people for. So that's a whole other level. And then I'm just excited, like how's cooking and like clean and like just getting around. Like I'm gonna be a lot more independent. So I'm like a little nervous about that because I don't know, to be honest, like I don't know how to navigate adult life in any circumstance, so it's gonna be really funny trying to do that in Sri Lanka. It'll be amusing.
Yeah, that was literally my experience in Morocco. I was like cooking in my first apartment, cooking for myself for the first time, buying groceries and budgeting. I was like, I don't know how to do this in English.
Yeah, and I don't like, and the whole like grocery system is gonna be really different. Whatever like cooking appliances, like the accommodations, I have no idea what it's like. So.
Oh my gosh. So in terms of, do you speak Spanish? Is that a second language or first language?
It's a second language. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of Spanish, which is one of the most commonly spoken languages, versus Sinhala, which is definitely among the less commonly spoken top languages. Have you taken Spanish formally in a classroom?
Yes.
So what has been your experience here, even just for one semester at Sinhala versus Spanish and all of the resources that exist?
I think it's interesting because I started learning Spanish when I was young, like when I was like 9 or 10. And so then I've kind of just been like taking it on and off, like you know how in like middle school like language classes are kind of like garbage, and then high school like a little bit better, and then you really don't learn until you have an immersion experience. But I think it was just interesting because I've just had like, since I was younger, I think I definitely didn't acquire it the way you acquire like a first language, but it was more sort of ingrained, so that by the time I got to college, like speaking Spanish, I had sort of an idea of like what sounded right, and I couldn't, but it was really interesting to learn a new language like at this point, like to start learning a language like in college, because it was a very different experience than my experience with Spanish because I'd been a lot younger. Also, it was difficult. Like there's a different like alphabet, which is challenging. I know like Arabic, that's definitely challenging.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
And like grammar structure is really different. Also, learning it in the like conversational, just learning it with you and the tutor and not being in a formal classroom environment makes it different, because you don't really learn like here are the grammar rules, like here's the conjugations, like all that. You kind of like come across those things and like sort of learn them, and then eventually you get there. But so that was different. One thing though I think is interesting though that I didn't expect is that Sinhala actually has a lot of cognates with Spanish. Yeah, which really wouldn't expect because Sri Lanka was colonized by the Portuguese for a long time, and so like words like mesa, it's the same pretty much. It's like a different, like slightly different pronunciation, but a lot of things like shoe is zapato in Spanish, and in Sinhala it's zapatoa, like things like that. And I was talking to my conversation partner from last semester, and she was telling me that, because of the colonization, like a lot of people in Sri Lanka have like Portuguese or like what sounds to me like Spanish sounding last names. And I was like, oh really? Like, can you tell me an example? And she's like, my grandmother's last name is Fernando. It's just like, it's bizarre. Like I didn't expect that at all, but there it is.
So you didn't know that until you took the language?
No, I mean I knew they'd been colonized by the Portuguese, but I didn't realize it like left such a strong like language mark.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And that I would be able to really pick up on it, yeah.
That's something you should definitely explore if you go.
Yeah, it'd be really fun. There's like a whole genre of music too that's like, it's actually called like baila, and it's basically sort of like it sounds kind of like the way we think about it, sounds kind of like a fast kind of like polka, like it's more like a European style of music that doesn't really sound like a lot of other music in Sri Lanka. It's all like...
But it's called baila.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh my god. I had no idea. I guess, yeah, if you don't know the history. Like, I went to Morocco and didn't know anything about Morocco before. Like, you just apply because you want to go there, right?
Right.
No, that's so interesting. Oh my gosh. So overall, are you enjoying, or did you enjoy last semester, in this semester, the format of the small, like, is the tutor, is that a way you learn a language, or?
Yeah, it's a way I'm learning, definitely. I think it's just, sometimes it's hard for me because I really do kind of want to understand the rules, and sometimes I can't always get those, so that's hard. Another thing, I mean, it's hard having to do more things independently, but I think what's good about it though is that you have to, if you're in the conversation session, like your partner is going to be saying things that you don't understand, and you're going to have to say things that are like wrong. And in like a larger like language class, like you kind of have the option to sort of like not say anything unless you're fully sure. Like you can be more scared of making mistakes for longer, whereas you really do have to speak up, and you really just have to like sort of live in that space where you don't really know what's going on, and so you can't be embarrassed. Like you just have to say stuff. So you do kind of have to like you pass that barrier, I think, a little sooner in the tutor sessions rather than you would in a large classroom.
That's so true. You could sit the whole semester and like just sit there quietly, not understanding anything that's going on in a big class.
Or you can you just don't have to say anything until you think through the sentence in your mind. I'm like, okay, this is right, and then you say it.
So true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. So I guess in Sinhala kind of like Arabic, but even more so. It might be kind of difficult to find material, like TV shows, songs, food, even people that speak it. So are you engaging? I mean, like...
I actually, it was funny because, so last semester, my conversation partner, she was at UMass, and I had to go to UMass every week, which now it's ironic because I was like, oh, I don't want to keep going to UMass because I go to Smith. And so I actually kind of hunted down a Sri Lankan international student and sent her, I didn't hunt, but I was talking to one of my friends who's in a house leadership position, and I was just chatting with her. She was like, oh, this is the girl in our house who's from Sri Lanka, and I'm like, what's her name? So I sent her an email, and then now she's my conversation partner. But it's silly because now I have to take a class at UMass anyway, but whatever.
Hey, so you got her hired, look at that.
Yeah, and she's a first year too, so you good, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And the other person was a senior.
So outside of the class, are you able to speak it or engage with it, or is it mostly just in the classroom?
It's mostly in the classroom thing. I try to find occasionally I can find songs and stuff on YouTube, and that's really I listen to that while I'm studying. I found a website that's kind of a constant streaming of Sinhala radio. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
That is good Googling. I like that. Oh my god.
It's one random.
Because you have to Google it in the language too. That's
a lot of stuff is written out phonetically in English, so it's not too hard.
Because sometimes I don't know if you've ever used Google with Arabic letters, but I will occasionally type in an Arabic, and it's this whole other world of resources that I of course have to read much slower, but so much exists if you actually type it in the language.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be true.
Yeah. So I guess you could talk about both your Spanish and the Sinhala, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how studying a language has affected your life outside of the language study itself. So in terms of your other subjects, your work ethic, who you are as a person, if that's changed as a result of the abroad experience or just studying a language. I don't know, that's probably a really difficult question.
Oh no, I need to think for a second.
Yeah, take your time. No.
I think first of all, I think studying Sinhala is one of those things where it's something people kind of expect to study Spanish. This is a language that you study. It's not going to be, it's not that different from English, blah, blah, blah. And you expect to achieve some sort of proficiency in it. But I think a lot of people, when they see a language that is really not in their language family, or especially doesn't use the Roman letters and that kind of thing, people are oh no, that's so hard, you can't do that. And it is interesting, it's definitely difficult, but it is doable, if you really do put attention into it and practice. And yeah, so I think that's been really eye-opening to see that if you really do dedicate yourself to it, you can learn some of a language, And I think it's just a difference in mindset when you know more than one language or you study more than one language. Is that I think people kind of really just, you can get really focused and then just all there is really is English and what's happening in English media or history that has anything to do with English and things like that. And I think if you study like different languages, you can also see like just even small things like differences in like grammar structure and like how you can really exist in this sort of like different way, but it's still there and it's totally still valid. I don't know. I think living in Spain was really great, and also spending time in India too was just seeing that like you really can live in different ways. Like your like how you study, like how you go to classes, or how you spend your free time, or the foods you eat and the places you go, and all those things can be really different, but you can really adapt to them. So.
Or you find that you're more attuned to that part of the world? I guess the India trip probably did it, but also just studying language, are you like more apt to read the news about it?
Yeah, like if I hear something, like I can tell you like different things that I probably wouldn't be able to tell you before, or like my geography knowledge is definitely a lot better. Like, people will be like, where even is that? And even if it's not like a country in that area that I've like directly studied, I'll be like, oh, it's right there. You know, but like you wouldn't know, or like my radar is definitely up. Like whenever I hear Sri Lanka, I'm just like,
yeah, it's like that's exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, I don't think it will ever go away now. We were just talking like, I don't know if you have this experience, because again, much less spoken than Arabic even out here, but if I'm on a public transit, I'll like take out my headphone if I hear someone speaking, and it might be really creepy, and try to listen.
Oh no, I definitely do that in Spanish.
Yeah, oh for sure, same thing. Oh god, yeah, out here a lot of Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that this Fulbright thing either works out or doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, after the year, do you have any intention of potentially maintaining this, or is this something that you see just as a short-term goal?
So I think so if I get the Fulbright and I spend the year in Sri Lanka and I enjoy it, so I enjoy, like living there, and my Sinhala skills get better, and I get experience working there, I would definitely consider, I want to go to medical school, so I definitely consider like coming back to the United States, going to medical school, and then eventually doing medical practice in Sri Lanka. I would seriously consider that, at least for like a time, It also just depends sort of on like what sort of contacts I make while I'm there, like if I make any contacts with any like NGOs or like health groups, things like that, or if I just get really invested in the school that I'm at, and I've talked to my friends and family, I'm like, I might go to Sri Lanka and just stay there forever. We'll see. So I'm definitely open to that. I think if I don't get the Fulbright, it'll be sad, but like life will go on, and I'll try to find. It's hard to find things to go to Sri Lanka, but I'll try. I'll at least try to visit at some point, But I'll try to find sort of like a 1 or 2 year fellowship to do there. Yeah.
Is there a reason why you chose ETA instead of research? I feel like you could have come up with a really good research project off of like medical stuff.
I think my thing with it is that, so I actually have a lot of teaching experience, and then last semester while I was in Spain, I taught, I volunteered as like an ESL teacher, and I just had such a fun time. Like it was great. Like I did it with adults. They were just great guys. It was hilarious, and just like really fun. And I just really enjoyed the process. And so I was like, and I was thinking about the Fulbright before, but I really wasn't sure if I wanted to do research or teaching. And I was like, I could be good in teaching. Like I could enjoy this.
Wow. So you can see yourself as a teacher someday?
Yeah, or at least temporarily. Like I don't know if I'd want to do that for like my entire life, but like that, I definitely want that to be like one part of my life, And then also I had like a research project that I was thinking about doing, but then it just didn't end up being feasible. And I just felt like unless I had something really coherent, it was just better to go into teaching, especially since like I was happy to do teaching anyway, Like if I didn't want to do teaching, then I would have like found a research project. But I was happy to do it, so it worked out.
Do you know what level of students you have?
So it looks like middle and high school is the age group I applied for, but I'm not sure what level they'll be at.
I'm interested in hearing from you. Well, I guess you have kind of a foot in both doors. You have like the more sciencey, STEM-y sort of fields, and then the language. But I'm studying Middle Eastern studies entirely, like humanities, and it would make sense to study a language. But why do you think that people, particularly those that aren't studying humanities, should study a language? So like people who want to go to medical school, right? Like, do you think that it makes sense, or is it a good thing for them to study language?
I think it's super important to do a language for medicine, like super important, because I think that, especially if you want to practice in the United States, like more and more people, like English really isn't their primary language, and it's not like, when you're in a medical situation with someone, you want to be able to be as comfortable as possible, and you want to make sure that you understand everything that's going on. So I think it's really important for doctors. I mean, obviously the highest demand language is Spanish, but the other languages are also important too. So I think it's also just, if you know a language, you can go places and you don't have to feel like a creepy tourist. like I personally felt really uncomfortable in Morocco when I was there because first of all I was there on like this creepy tour group, which was a bad idea.
Oh,
I
did
know.
you do the camels and you did the whole thing? The desert?
It was so bad. It was basically like my study abroad program was like, don't go to Morocco unless you can be on a group because like you don't know what's gonna happen.
So true.
And yeah, and I was just like, all right, better safe than sorry. But it was just
You
kind
didn't
of
go by yourself, did you?
no, I went with a couple friends and then we went on this tour group.
Okay.
But like the tour, it was actually really funny. It was like us and these like Spanish frat guys, and they're just like, we're in Morocco, let's go shopping. And I was like, this is so sad. Like I thought like the advantage of being on a tour group is like you would be like a tour guide with like historical insight and things like that. And there was like none of that. And so I think that if you actually do speak another language, you can travel and you can get around much more easily. And you can like feel better about yourself as a traveler. But I think also if you ever want to like live or work somewhere else, like now it's like I could pretty much, if I wanted to move to a Spanish speaking country, I could. Give me a little more time. If I want to move to Sri Lanka, I could. You know what I mean? It opens up your horizons. And also like just like if meeting different people, if they speak that language and you speak that language, like there's all automatically going to be some sort of connection there. Or just like excitement, you know, like, oh my God, you speak that and you can talk and everything. Like it's just, it makes your life, I think, like a lot larger, if that makes sense, or like your options are more, and I think you get a deeper understanding of like people and places. So I think everyone should study a language. If you really hate languages, like don't do it. But you know, if it doesn't like make you cringe, it can be enjoyable for sure and important.
Do you think that, this just came to me, do you think that in the Fulbright classroom, in the English classroom, you would use your Sinhala skills, or do you think that you would try to avoid it and do like an English only thing?
I think it really depends on what the school is looking for in class and what the because you work with a teacher, like what the cooperating teacher is looking for. But I think it would be a nice gesture, and also like it would also just be fun if they could have some sort of component where like they teach me or I speak my like very rudimentary Sinhala, they kind of like laugh. Like I think it would kind of like make things a little bit more open to be like, look, I'm trying this too, you know what I mean? Like we're in kind of the same boat, and you don't have to worry about speaking English like, perfectly and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
I would like to, but I'm just not sure what the school environment's going to be like.